Based on a true story, Captain Phillips follows the hijacking of the US ship the Maersk Alabama in 2009 by Somali pirates.
Have a safe trip.
I'll call you from there.
It's a battle of wits between two captains on a collision course in this gripping thriller.
I don't like the look of that.
Sky Movies sat down with the director of the film, Paul Greengrass, and star Tom Hanks for a chat about filming on the high seas.
There's got to be something other than kidnapping people.
Maybe in America. Maybe in America.
Mr. Tom Hanks, it's a pleasure to meet
Now,
you.
it's lovely to see you.
In terms of Captain Phillips, I guess both the man, the character on the page, and indeed his story, what was it about all of that that really attracted you to playing this role in film?
Actually, it was a great history that a guy like Richard Phillips already has. He's an accomplished merchant mariner. He's gone to the academy. He studied for years. He faced death any number of times already at sea, in a hurricane, with engine fires, what have you. And this very, very, it's one way of looking at this job is like, it's a boring thing. They load up a ship, they go across the sea. But in fact, something can potentially go disastrously wrong every moment of a voyage. And he, as the captain, is responsible for making sure that doesn't happen. And that's before hijackers show up, on the starboard quarter.
2 skiffs. Can't tell how many they're carrying.
Copy that. There's no answer at the U.S. Maritime Emergency Line.
Raising a KMTO.
It's a tough world, they're the truckers of the ocean is what they are, Very hard-working sort of people. So I loved the story of this guy who gets in peril on the sea, and I loved the modern-day piracy thing. That was good. We've all sort of seen the Pirates of the Caribbean, but the reality of piracy is it's a brutal, cutthroat business. So I want, that was interesting. It sort of went to the larger picture.
This is the Maersk Alabama.
Our position is 2 degrees 2 north by 49 degrees 19 east. Our course is 180, our speed is 17 knots.
We have 2 skiffs approaching at a distance of 1.5 miles with a possible mothership following.
Potential piracy situation.
The complex nature of the job, and I think the kind of like no-nonsense drive that Richard Phillips has, just in general, in order to do the job. Look, that's loaded with fascinating details that I knew nothing about, which, if you can incorporate them into the film, are just going to add to the texture and the fabric of the entire story. And we were able to get that because Richard wrote a pretty good book about it, with a ghostwriter, I would say. But he was also very open with me about some of the particulars that I would never have gotten had he and I not been willing to sit down and chat about it.
Alabama, you should alert your crew, get your fire hoses ready, and follow lockdown procedures.
Is that it?
I'm relaying your transmission now, but chances are it's just fishermen.
They're not here to fish.
For me, one of the most memorable scenes in the film, it's an incredible scene, is where Musey and Phillips meet for the first time on the bridge of the Alabama.
Yeah.
What did you hope to achieve with that scene? Because there were specific things you did in preparation for their first meeting.
Well, it was an important scene because that's the first time they meet. You sort of followed them into that moment, and we'd done all that filming, so I'd filmed with them both separately. But it was important to me that they weren't friends before that scene was shot.
Alabama, this is your final warning! Stop the ship!
We had never met those guys until that moment. We had never set eyes on them. We had never been introduced. Paul Greengrass had kept the crew of the Alabama completely separate from the hijackers.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
So we kept them in separate hotels and rehearsed with them separately, so that take that's in the film, that's actually the first moment they actually set eyes on each other.
We were aware that they were in Malta. We could sometimes see these boats on the horizon doing something out there, and we were told, oh, that's the crew, Somali, they're in training, or they're grabbing some second unit shots. But the first time I even had seen a figure that I recognized as the 4 hijackers was through the binoculars on board the ship. I could see them out there doing something. And I said to Paul, is that the stunt crew out there grabbing some stuff? I said, no, that's them. I said, really? But they were still just little teeny tiny figures in the ship.
4 pirates on board, 4 pirates coming towards us down the main deck.
The day that we were shooting the actual hijacking, the moment, it was fraught with anxiety for all of us, all the guys that were on the bridge, because we could hear them coming. You know, there was a lot of shouts, and we see the camera moving, and then there was pyrotechnics, and there was gunfire, and then lo and behold, in they came, the scariest, skinniest human beings we'd ever come across, and it was harrowing.
It's a sort of simple trick, but it seemed to work because I think it gave a heightened sense of anticipation, and I think it helped both Barkhad and Tom because it meant that they had no presuppositions about the other in a good way.
We got a problem. We pushed the ship too hard. We're off the grid. That means the computer's now offline.
Captain.
The ship's broken.
Captain, no one get hurt if you don't play no game.
But, you know, in situations like that, you never know how it's going to be until, you know, till it plays. And I just remember seeing Barkhad come in and he gives that wonderful line about, "Look at me, I'm the captain now." And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be fine. They're going to be good.
Hey! Look at me.
Sure.
Look at me. Sure. I'm the captain now.
I mean, it is a phenomenal
It
performance
is, yeah.
from
I think
Tom
so.
Hanks. In terms of him as an actor, as a man, what made him right to take on this role, in your opinion? What qualities does he have as an actor that made him perfect for Captain Phillips?
Well, I think he's a great actor. That obviously goes without saying.
We stay locked down until help arrives. No one comes out until you hear the non-duress password from me, which is supper time. If the pirates find you, remember, you know the ship, they don't. Make them feel like they're in charge, but keep them away from the important things like the generator and the engine controls.
I think he's sort of in a cinematic era that's dominated by superheroes in the main, you know. He's dared to build his career by playing ordinary men, you know. And that takes self-discipline, you know, because you're accepting limits to the character. You know, they don't have special powers. They're not sort of super well-trained military people. They're just ordinary men in extraordinary situations. And yet, he has the ability, by sort of accepting those limitations, to make immortal these ordinary men, you know, and we've seen it time and time again, you know, Saving Private Ryan and Philadelphia and all those sorts of characters.
Pretty much, as you give the first line, we'll come out and then we're out. We're going to be over you. All right.
Okay. So this is obviously, I'm biased, but I think this is a great performance because he makes Phillips this sort of workaday sea captain into a kind of profound figure, and you know, the ordeal he goes through sort of reaches a deep humanity, I think, you know, which I think is incredibly touching.
Don't get in there! We gotta get him off the ship! Not like this!
And of course, this is your first time working with the man behind the camera,
Paul Greengrass, yeah.
Yeah, how was that experience? And I guess what made him perfect to bring this story to the screen?
Well, I had seen certainly Bloody Sunday and United 93, which had this verisimilitude as well as this lack of overt editorializing that I greatly appreciate. And we had almost tried to make another film together that didn't work out. So I had known him, but I had not had that meeting with him. Says, okay, here we are. What is it that you want to do with this film? Because I have to be both, you know, under his tutelage, and I have to embrace him as like some sort of like soulmate in order to get there. And once we started talking about the particulars of the unsaid, unseen things in the story, I felt as though, okay, all right, let's go. This is I can't believe I'm so lucky to be in a Paul Greengrass movie. You know, Matt Damon, eat your heart out.
Captain Phillips, can you hear me? Captain Phillips, can you hear me?